Hello, welcome to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. In this upload, we're going to be reading 2 Kings chapter 13. In the 23rd year of Joash the son of Ahaziah, king of Judah, Jehoahaz the son of Jehu began to reign over Israel and Samaria and reigned 17 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord and followed the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin. He departed not therefore. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he delivered them into the hand of Hazael, king of Syria, and into the hand of Benhadad the son of Hazael all their days. And Jehoahaz besought the Lord, and the Lord hearkened unto him, for he saw the oppression of Israel, because the king of Syria oppressed them. And the Lord gave Israel a survivor, so that they went out from under the hand of the Syrians, and the children of Israel dwelt in their tents as beforetime. Nevertheless, they departed not from the sins of the house of Jeroboam, who made Israel sin, but walked therein, and there remained the grove also in Samaria. Neither did he leave of the people to Jehoahaz but 50 horsemen and 10 chariots and 10,000 footmen, for the king of Syria had destroyed them and had made them like the dust by threshing. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoahaz, and all that he did and his might, are they not written in the book of the chronicles of the kings of Israel? And Jehoahaz slept with his fathers, and they buried him in Samaria, and Joash his son reigned in his stead. In the 37th year of Joash, king of Judah, began Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz, to reign over Israel and Samaria, and reigned 16 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not from all the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel sin, but he walked therein. And the rest of the acts of Joash and all that he did, and his might, wherewith he fought against Amaziah, king of Judah, are they not written in the book of the chronicle of the kings of Israel? And Joash slept with his fathers, and Jeroboam sat upon his throne. And Joash was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. Now Elisha was fallen sick of his sickness, whereof he died. And Joash the king of Israel came down unto him, and wept over his face, and said, O my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. And Elisha said unto him, Take bow and arrows. And he took unto him bow and arrows. And he said to the king of Israel, Put thine hand upon the bow. And he put his hand upon it. And Elisha put his hands upon the king's hands. And he said, Open the window eastward. And he opened it. Then Elisha said, Shoot. And he shot. And he said, The arrow of the Lord's deliverance, and the arrow of deliverance from Syria, for thou shalt smite the Syrians in Aphek, till thou have consumed them. And he said, Take the arrows. And he took them. And he said unto the king of Israel, Smite upon the ground. And he smote thrice and stayed. And the man of God was wroth with him and said, Thou shouldest have smitten 5 or 6 times. Then hadst thou smitten Syria till thou hadst consumed it, whereas now thou shalt smite Syria but thrice. And Elisha died, and they buried him. And the bands of the Moabites invaded the land at the coming in of the year. And it came to pass, as they were burying a man, that behold, they spied a band of men, and they cast the men into the sepulchre of Elisha. And when the man was let down and touched the bones of Elisha, he revived and stood up on his feet. But Hazael, king of Syria, oppressed Israel all the days of Jehoahaz, and the Lord was gracious unto them, and had compassion on them, and had respect unto them, because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and would not destroy them, neither cast he them from his presence as yet. So Hazael, king of Syria, died, and Benhadad his son reigned in his stead. And Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz, took again out of the hand of Benhadad, the son of Hazael, the cities which he had taken out of the hand of Jehoahaz his father by war. 3 times did Joash beat him, and recovered the cities of Israel. In the previous chapter, 2 Kings 12, King Joash of Judah delegates temple repair to the priests. Priests collect the money but do not complete the repairs. Joash places a chest with a hole in the temple to securely collect church donations. King Joash gives King Hazael all of the gold from his own home and from the temple to persuade him away from warring with Judah. Joash's servants kill him and his son. Amaziah becomes king of Israel. The current chapter, 2 Kings 13. Jehu's son, Jehoahaz, becomes king of Israel. He asks God for help when the Syrians subjugate Israel. God sends help, but Israel still does not honor God. Jehoahaz's military is weak. Jehoahaz's son is Jehoash, and that's mentioned in verse 10. When Jehoash dies, another person named Jeroboam becomes king of Israel. So this is the second king of Israel who's named Jeroboam. At the end of this chapter, Jehoash is the king of Israel, Ben-Hadad is the king of Syria, and Amaziah is the king of Judah. Summarizing 2 Kings 13. So we are going to see that discrepancy in the name with Joash and Jehoash. We're also going to be introduced to another king, Jeroboam, who is going to be also ruling over Israel. Right now, before we start reading, the end of chapter 12, Jehu is the king of Israel, Amaziah is the king of Judah, Hazael is the king of Syria. In verses 1 through 3. In Joash's 23rd year being king of Judah, because this chapter we're going to be focusing on Israel. The last two chapters focused on Judah. And just a quick recap, Jacob, also called Israel, both once this nation of Israel moved to the promised land, also known as Canaan, they became splintered. So these are all descendants of Jacob, but they've been operating as two nations since David. It's just that under David's leadership, they were able to reconcile as one, but after Solomon disobeys, they have been fractured into two nations. So we have Judah and Israel. The last couple of chapters focused on Judah. So this chapter is going to be focusing on what's happening in the nation of Israel. So the Bible compares rulers to give us a clue of who was ruling in Judah while, another king was ruling in Israel. So that's why this is starting out like this. The 23rd year of King Joash. Okay, so King Joash was ruling Judah for 23 years, and Jehoahaz, Jehu's son, becomes king of Israel. Okay, he reigned 17 years. Jehoahaz was evil, he disobeyed God, and the Syrians, or the, Aram and Syria is the same thing, but the Syrians subjugated Israel. In verse 4, Jehoahaz, king of Israel, seeks God for help, and God delivers an unnamed deliverer, an unnamed savior. Israel was able to escape the subjugation of the Syrians. But Israel did not honor God. They returned to their old way of life. We also learned that Jehoahaz, the king of Israel, his military was very weak after this subjugation. We get to verse 8, and so as I said, we have two nations we have two nations and they're all relatives, but they're operating as two separate nations. And so the historical record of Israel's kings is the record of Israel. We also have a historical record of Judah. We do not see these two books listed in the 66 books of the Bible, but because these books are written and referenced every time there's a change in leadership, this is why I've given the educated guess that these are records of the history of these two separate nations. So every time there's a change in leadership, we see this. So Jehoahaz, king of Israel, he's about to die, okay? And his accomplishments are going to be recorded in the historical record of Israel. And then his son, Jehoash, becomes king. So now we have Jehoash, who is now the king of Israel, and we have Joash, who's the king of Judah. So that's what I was saying when I was, talking about this name discrepancy. This is in verse 8. So we're going to go back to the King James because this is recorded this way in the King James. Okay. So Jehoahaz, king of Israel, we have that in both versions. Joash, his son, reigned. Then we get in verse 10, the 37th year of Joash, king of Judah, began Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz. So we see how from verse 9 to 10, that name is spelled differently. So, I'm not going to go to the interlinear because I just know this is, again, when we look at who wrote Second Kings, it's unknown, but it's just a detail of, again, this is not the original language of the Bible. We don't know who wrote the Bible. And, you know, this is a discrepancy, honestly, that if I was an atheist and I was going to say, or I was one of those people that, oh, I don't believe in the Bible because there's so many discrepancies, like I would pick apart something like this, but you would have had to read it to be able to say that. So a lot of times people's discrepancies come from what someone says, and we have a really bad problem in our religion as Christians of not reading the Bible. That's why if you're a person and you believe that you don't feel embraced by Christians, or you feel like you need to be embraced by Christians to have a relationship with God, you shouldn't live like that. My recommendation, because why do you want to be embraced by people who aren't even doing what they're supposed to be doing? If they didn't read the Bible and you think you need their approval to have a connection to God, it's, in my opinion, it just ain't the best thing to do, not the best way to live. But okay. So now we have Jehoash, who was the king of Israel. Okay. So while Judah has King Joash, Israel has King Jehoash. Jehoash did what was evil, and then he has a short reign. By verse 12, we're seeing that same, the rest of his accomplishments are written in the historical record of Israel. So Jehoash, he dies, and then Jeroboam sits on the throne. So the interesting thing about Jeroboam, right? So we know back in, what was it? Second Kings chapter 10, God tells Jehu that your lineage will rule Israel for 4 generations because of his deeds. And the way this is phrased, Jeroboam sat on the throne, right? I mean, there just isn't enough there's only been two lineages. Jehu, his son Jehoahaz becomes king, and then Jehoash becomes king. So there should be two other people from his lineage. It's just interesting because we see this language. Jeroboam sat on the throne, and we have the New Living Translation that, puts, it just says Jeroboam, his son, Jehoash's son. But you see how it's not listed. This information does not tell us explicitly that is Je, uh, Jeroboam is Jehoash's son. This isn't explicit. Do you see how in verse 9, his son Jehoahaz slept and Joash reigned in his place, even though it's misspelled in some of them? Do you see how it's his son, his son, his son in every single translation? But when we get to Jeroboam, it just it just isn't clear. that Jeroboam is the son of Jehoash and a lineage of Jehu. And it's a small detail, but it's just something worth paying attention to since God did tell Jehu explicitly, your lineage is going to be on that throne for 4 generations. And so who is Jeroboam if he's, you know, I feel like the New Living Translation it inserted that. All right. So now at verse 14, we're switching from Israel and talking about what's going on in Israel. Now we're talking about Elisha because King Jehoash, okay, of Israel, this is before King Jehoash or King Joash. Okay, because we just saw, see, it's easy to get confused, okay? King Joash is the king of Israel. Okay, King Joash is the king of Judah. King Jehoash is the king of Israel. Okay? But we know that King Jehoash dies and Jeroboam replaces him. Okay, we're not sure if that's his son. So now we're talking about Jehoash of Israel. This is detailing an event. Jehoash is worried about his military. So Elisha is sick. He's going to die from the illness that he's sick from in this verse. But Jehoash is worried about his military. He approaches Elisha saying, my father, the chariots. So Elisha, it's this weird, well, I don't want to call it weird, but Elisha, the kind of prophet that he is, I would rather have Elijah than Elisha because Elisha, that little boy, when he was trying to heal him, he laid on top of his body and put his lips on top of the little boy's lips. It's just a little much, and he's really touchy. So I don't like that. So that's why I don't like nobody laying their hands on me either. I don't go up to get my hands laid. I don't let nobody lay hands on me. I don't like all that. Okay. But anyway, verse 15, Elisha tells Jehoash, okay, I know that you're having a problem with your military. Get a bow and arrows. And then Elisha tells Jehoash, the king, now pull the bow back, get ready to shoot the arrow. Then Elisha goes around him and puts his hands over the king's hands, getting ready to shoot that bow and arrow. Okay? Elisha tells him to open the window. He shoots. You know, he doesn't clearly tell the king how many arrows he's supposed to shoot, but you know, the king struck it 3 times. And maybe Elisha was like on him, helping him pull the string. And maybe he just said, okay, after 3, I've had enough. Okay. But he did it 3 times and stopped. And then Elisha got angry with him because he said, you should have struck the ground 5 or 6 times. This is after being unclear, right? But Elisha tells him, you're only going to strike a ram 3 times because you didn't put an end to them. Okay, as I said, I would rather ask Elijah to pray for me or something. Okay. Verse 20, Elisha dies. And now we learn that there are raiders or a band of thieves, okay, who commonly come into the land. They're Moabites. So, verse 20 and 21, this is during a funeral. These band of raiders are approaching the Israelites who are participating in this funeral. So, the corpse that they're having the funeral for, they throw the corpse into Elisha's tomb. And when the dead man touches Elisha's body, he's revived and he comes back to life. We get to verse 22 and 23. King Hazael of Syria oppressed Israel. But God was gracious, never destroyed them, and it says it was because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Verse 24, King Hazael dies. His son Benadad, so this is also the second Benadad. Benadad comes into power over Syria. So Benadad is the king of Syria. And Jehoash, who is the king of Israel, okay, he takes back the cities that Hazael took from his father. Okay? Then Jehoash of Israel defeats Benadad 3 times and recovers the cities. Right now, at the end of this chapter, the king of Israel is Jeroboam. The king of Judah is Amaziah. The king of Syria is Benadad. The reason why I'm saying the king of Judah is Jeroboam is because when we get back up here, okay, verse 13, Jeroboam sat on the throne. So Jehoash is buried. So now Jeroboam is the king of Israel. When we get to 14, this is dealing with an event before Jehoash dies. Okay? And even verse 22 and 22 through 25, this is all dealing with Jehoash, and Jehoash has died in verse 13. It's just that we're getting more details about things that he's done. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. Have a wonderful day.